The night air is cool against your skin. The sea is restless, but not yet violent. Waves rise and fall beneath the small wooden boat, reflecting fragments of moonlight like shattered silver across dark water. The wind carries the scent of salt and distance, brushing softly against your face. You are still catching your breath from what you have just seen. Jesus walked on the water. Not in metaphor, not in vision, but across the surface of the sea as if it were solid ground. At first you thought it was a ghost. Fear came quickly, sharp and irrational. But then his voice cut through the wind. Take courage. It is I. Do not be afraid. The words settled into the night like anchors. Now the waves continue to roll beneath you, but something inside has shifted. The fear that gripped your chest moments ago has been replaced by something far more dangerous. Desire. Peter stands near the edge of the boat. His breathing is uneven, his eyes fixed on Jesus standing there in the darkness between wave and sky. The others remain seated, gripping ropes and wood, unsure what to do with what they are witnessing. But Peter leans forward. You can feel it. The pull. The impossible invitation. Lord, if it is you, tell me to come to you on the water. The request hangs in the air. It is bold. It is reckless. It is faith and doubt tangled together. Because notice what he says. If it is you. Faith rarely begins pure. It often begins trembling. Jesus does not lecture him. He does not explain the physics of miracles. He simply says, come. One word. No elaboration. No guarantee of calm seas. No promise that the wind will stop. Just come. The boat rocks beneath you. Water splashes over the sides. The wind presses harder now, as if aware that something significant is about to happen. Peter swings one leg over the side. The others stare. You feel the tension in your own body. This is the moment where safety ends. The boat, unstable as it is, still feels secure compared to what lies beyond it. Inside the boat, familiarity, community, predictability. Outside the boat, uncertainty, risk, exposure. And yet, Jesus is not inside the boat. He is on the water. Peter shifts his weight. His other foot crosses the edge. For a split second, his entire body is suspended between two realities. Then his feet touch the surface. The water does not swallow him. It holds. You watch as he stands upright, disbelief flickering across his face. The wind still moves. The waves still rise and fall. Nothing about the environment has changed. But he is standing on what should not hold him. One step, then another. Each movement tentative but real. The distance between him and the boat grows. The distance between him and Jesus shrinks. You realize something quietly. The miracle did not begin when he walked on water. It began when he stepped out of the boat. Faith always requires departure. There is always a moment when you must leave what feels stable to move toward what feels impossible. And in your own life, you have felt that edge. The moment you applied for the job. The moment you started the conversation. The moment you chose obedience over comfort. The moment you trusted when evidence was thin. It never feels calm when you step out. The wind does not stop. The waves do not flatten. Circumstances rarely align to make faith convenient. Peter walks. His eyes are locked on Jesus. That is the key. As long as his gaze remains fixed, the water beneath him feels firm. Not because it is solid, but because trust is. The moonlight reflects across the surface in trembling lines of silver. The wind tugs at his robe, but he continues forward. You feel the wonder in the air. He is doing what only moments ago seemed absurd. Impossible. Unreachable. But faith is not about eliminating impossibility. It is about responding to invitation. The boat behind him feels smaller now. The disciples are silent, watching. Jesus stands steady, unmoved by the waves. And Peter walks. Closer. 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 There is something sacred about this stretch of water between fear and fulfillment. Something fragile. Because faith requires focus. And focus can shift. The wind grows louder. Not stronger. Just louder. A sudden gust sprays water against his face. The wave beneath his feet rises higher than the others. And for the first time since stepping out, Peter glances down. Just briefly. But it is enough. He notices the wind. He sees the height of the waves. He calculates the instability. And something changes. Not in the sea. In his mind. The moment focus shifts from Jesus to the storm, the water beneath him feels different. Less firm. Less certain. Fear re-enters, subtle at first. Then sharp. You know this feeling. The moment confidence begins to tremble. The moment doubt whispers, "What are you doing out here?" The wind howls louder in his ears. The waves look taller. The distance from the boat feels wider. The distance to Jesus feels greater. And suddenly, the miracle feels fragile. The water gives way. Not violently, but gradually. He begins to sink. It does not happen all at once. He does not vanish beneath the waves instantly. He begins to sink. Slowly. Subtly. The water that moments ago felt impossibly firm beneath his feet now feels uncertain. The surface shifts. The balance falters. His confidence cracks not because the wind grew stronger, but because his focus moved. You see it in his face. That flicker. The calculation. The awareness of risk. The mind rushing ahead of faith. The same sea. The same wind. The same Jesus. But a different gaze. Peter looks at the waves now. They are high. They are unstable. They are real. The sound of wind fills his ears louder than the memory of the invitation. Come. And as his eyes settle on the storm settles into him. Fear is rarely external first. It becomes internal. He feels the shift in his body before the others see it. The firmness beneath his feet softens. His ankles dip below the surface. Then his calves. Water climbs slowly, wrapping around his legs like cold hands. The miracle does not disappear instantly. It dissolves under divided attention. You know this place. You have walked in confidence before. You have stepped out in obedience. You have felt that holy momentum, the sense that God was holding you steady. But then something happened. A voice of doubt, A sudden complication. An unexpected delay. A wave you did not anticipate. And your focus shifted. From promise to problem. From invitation to impossibility. Peter's breathing changes. It becomes shallow. Quick. The sea feels colder now. He had not noticed the temperature before. Faith can insulate you from fear, but doubt magnifies sensation. The wind slaps against his robe again. He feels smaller, less steady, more exposed. The distance between him and the boat feels wider now. The distance between him and Jesus feels fragile. And in that fragile space, panic rises. Water reaches his knees, then his waist. The surface that once held him now resists him. The storm did not strengthen. His attention fragmented. This is how anxiety works. It rarely begins with disaster. It begins with attention shifting. You replay what could go wrong. You imagine failure. You calculate outcomes without grace included. You look down at the instability. And slowly, you sink. Not because God withdrew. Not because the invitation expired. But because fear occupied the center of your vision. Peter does not curse the sea. He does not try to swim back to the boat. He does not pretend he is still walking. He does something far more honest. He cries out, "Lord, save me." 3 words. Short, urgent, unpolished. There is no theology in it. No explanation. No argument. Just desperation. And sometimes that is the purest form of faith. He does not say, "Lord, I was walking well." He does not say, "Lord, the wind distracted me." He does not justify. He reaches. Because even while sinking, he knows where help stands. The water rises to his chest now. His footing is gone. The sea claims what focus surrendered. But the story does not end there. Because what matters most in this moment is not how far he sinks. It is where he looks next. Fear had redirected his gaze. Now desperation redirects it again. Back to Jesus. And something inside you recognizes this rhythm. Focus. Distraction. Fear. Cry. Return. This is not failure. This is humanity. You were never meant to walk on water without attention. You were never meant to hold yourself up. Faith is not self-confidence. It is relational trust. The waves crash around him, but his eyes search only one place now. Upward. Toward the one who called him out. "Lord, save me." The sea does not answer. But Jesus does. Immediately. Immediately. Not after a lesson. Not after a pause. Not after Peter proves anything. Immediately. Jesus reaches out his hand. The distance between sinking and saving is shorter than fear tells you. The waves still move. The wind still presses. But none of it slows his response. You see the moment clearly. Peter's shoulders dipping below the surface. Water rising to his chest. Panic widening his eyes. And then, a hand. Steady. Certain. Extended without hesitation. The sea does not calm first. The storm does not weaken. The miracle in this moment is not the stilling of water. It is the nearness of rescue. Jesus does not shout instructions. He does not offer advice. He does not say, "Try harder." He reaches, and Peter grabs hold. The contact is immediate, firm, strong. The grip is not fragile, not uncertain. It does not slip. The same hand that formed galaxies now closes around a trembling wrist. And the sinking stops. Not because Peter regains composure, not because he stabilizes himself, but because he is held. You feel something shift inside your own chest as you witness it. Because this is the part anxiety rarely shows you. You may sink, but you are not alone in the water. The waves still brush against them as Jesus pulls him upward. The sea resists briefly, then yields. Peter's body rises above the surface again, not walking this time, but supported. Supported is not lesser than walking. Sometimes it is holier. The wind howls around them, but its threat feels smaller now. Because the hand is stronger. You notice something important. Jesus does not scold him while he is sinking. Correction comes after rescue. Safety comes before instruction. "Oh, you of little faith, why did you doubt?" The words are not harsh. They are gentle, curious, inviting reflection, not shame. Little faith is still faith. It stepped out of the boat. It walked on water. It called for help. Anxiety will try to define you by the moment you sank. Jesus defines you by the moment you called. Peter's breathing begins to steady. His grip tightens around the hand holding him. Water drips from his robe. The storm continues, but it no longer feels sovereign. They walk back toward the boat together. Not Peter alone. Not Jesus distant. Together. Each step toward the boat is quieter than the first steps out of it. Less dramatic. More grounded. Faith after failure is deeper than faith before risk. The disciples watch in stunned silence as the two figures approach. One steady. One shaken. But both standing. You realize something sacred in this image. Faith is not proven by never sinking. It is proven by reaching when you do. The sea beneath them still shifts, but the panic has left. The storm has not yet ceased. But Peter is no longer afraid of it in the same way. Because he has felt the grip. He knows now what it means to be caught mid-fall. He knows the difference between drowning and being held. And in your own life, you have felt this too. Moments where confidence gave way. Moments where you questioned your step. Moments where anxiety swallowed your focus. But also moments where something caught you. An unexpected peace. A quiet reassurance. A strength that was not your own. The hand may not always look dramatic. It may come as a friend's voice. A scripture remembered. A breath that steadies. But it is always there. Jesus and Peter step into the boat. The wood creaks beneath their weight. Water pools at their feet. The wind begins to soften. Not because Peter's faith improved, but because Jesus is present. The storm that once felt defining now feels secondary. Because the greater miracle was never the walking. It was the holding. Now leave the Sea of Galilee and return to your own waters. You may not feel waves beneath your feet, but you feel instability, deadlines that press in, expectations that rise like wind, uncertainty about the future, conversations you replay at night, responsibilities that feel heavier than you expected. You stepped out once. You tried. You trusted. You obeyed. And for a moment, it felt like you were walking above what used to drown you. But then something shifted. A complication. A delay. A fear. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, you began to sink. Not publicly, not dramatically, but internally. Anxiety does not always look like chaos. Sometimes it looks like quiet doubt. A question that whispers, "Was this a mistake? Should I have stayed in the boat?" Peter's story is not about failure. It is about focus. He did not sink because he lacked faith. He sank because his attention moved. And attention is fragile. You can begin a journey with courage and still lose sight midway. You can obey and still tremble. You can believe and still panic. The storm is loud, but it is rarely the loudest voice. The loudest voice is the one inside your own thoughts. The calculations, the what-ifs, the imagined outcomes without grace included. And slowly, the water rises. But here's what changes everything. Sinking is not the end. Reaching is. Peter did not swim back to safety. He did not pretend he was fine. He did not hide his fear. He reached. 3 words. Lord, save me. Short. Honest. Urgent. Sometimes the strongest prayer is the simplest one. You may not need long explanations. You may not need perfect theology. You may not need to understand every reason behind the storm. You need to reach. Because the same hand that held Peter still extends toward you. Immediately. Not after you improve. Not after you calm down. Not after you regain balance. Immediately. Anxiety tells you that you must stabilize yourself before help comes. Grace tells you that help comes while you are unstable. The sea may not calm instantly. Your circumstances may not rearrange overnight. But being held changes how you experience the storm. You may still feel the wind, but you will not feel alone. You may still sense uncertainty, but you will not feel abandoned. You may still tremble, but you will not drown. The boat is not the safest place. His presence is. Sometimes God calls you out of the boat so you can discover that even sinking becomes sacred when you are held. The storm is not always removed, but it is always redefined. Close your eyes for a moment. Picture the water. Picture the fear. Picture the moment your footing slips. Now picture the hand. Firm. Certain. Unshaken. Feel your grip tightening around it. Let your breathing slow. You do not need to stand perfectly on the waves. You only need to hold on. The archive closes, but the hand remains.